Alright, rockers, I am very lucky to be joined now by one of the most recognizable voices in the world of hard rock and metal. Over the years, we've all known him as the frontman of Stryper, and now he's teamed up with George Lynch to do Sweet and Lynch. None other than Michael Sweet, right now here inside the ASYLUM. How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Good, doing really good. Glad spring is here. How about you?
I'm a little beat. I just got back from a run out in L.A. And I did a lot of driving and performing, and I got to catch my breath, but I'm fine, man. I'm doing well.
Well, that's always good to hear, man. Always good to hear everyone that's doing well and everyone is busy, because busy is always good in the world of rock and metal.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to get right into things with the new thing you've got going on with George Lynch, with Sweet and Lynch, and I want to go back a little bit because, you know, with the way the industry is, usually when stuff like this goes around, these supergroups form, so to speak, it gets leaked out and we kind of hear about it in advance, and I don't recall hearing about this in advance. I just remember getting an email saying, here's a new album from George Lynch and Michael Sweet, and I went, whoa, I didn't even hear about this. How did you guys link up and sit down to say, you know what, let's do something together?
Well, I was approached by Frontiers originally just to sing on an album that they were going to be putting together, and I'm the guy that suggested producing it, you know, and being a little bit more involved in the songwriting and producing and whatnot. And Serafino liked the idea, and then I suggested some players, and George was one of those players, along with Brian Tichy and James Lomenzo. And, you know, once I became the producer, I think I gained the respect of the label in terms of putting together the band, and I was able to do that. They allowed me to do that. And, you know, those were my go-to guys, my first thoughts, George, Brian, and James. And I thought that would be the dream team and the best of the best, and sure enough, they are. And the album really turned out well. I'm very pleased with how it turned out.
It absolutely did. I mean, it's a great album from beginning to end. I've been really digging it since I got my hands into it and really gotten to dig into it over the past month or so, I believe it is, that I've had it, maybe longer. You know, when it came down to the writing, how did you guys go about writing all this stuff? Was this a combo effort between you and George, or was it a group effort, or was some of these songs that maybe you guys had stashed away from other work that it didn't make the cut for that stuff?
Definitely nothing that was stashed away. I mean, it's all new material that was written specifically for this album. It wasn't a group effort. George and I wrote everything on our own. He would basically put together guitar riffs, send those ideas to me, minute and a half long ideas, and then I would take those ideas and then complete them as songs, write the melodies, write the lyrics, arrange them, add pieces and sections that weren't there. You know, that's how we did every song on the album. Until we had 12 songs, 12 tracks, and they're all brand new songs. Nothing was stashed away or taken from a B-side or a shelved song from another project. It's all fresh stuff, all brand new.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool to hear because, you know, often when these supergroups get put together in the past, you know, you'll always hear one or two of the players that came in may have brought something in that they were working on, and maybe it didn't fit what they did 24/7, you know, all year round, and end up with something that sounds like it could have been in that main band, but really wasn't, and it was still new. And it's nice to hear that you guys said, you know what, we're just going to go in and bang this out brand new, beginning to end, as a new entity.
Yeah, I mean, we went in, and it really worked out where we were able to go and make an album that was cohesive. Everything worked together. There was really no hurdles to jump over, or no hoops to jump through. I mean, it went as easy as it possibly could have gone. There were no issues whatsoever. And a lot of times going into an album like this, with a project like this, you're going to have issues, you know, and you're going to have hang-ups, and there's going to be things that drag or slow the process down, or become a very major problem. We didn't have any of that on this album, and that's pretty mind-blowing, considering the fact that we made it how we made it. You know, George tracked all his tracks out in L.A. I tracked drums, bass, and guitars at Brian and James out here on the East Coast. So, you know, I don't like to do things like that typically, because you can lose energy, and it just winds up not being quite the same as it is when you have all 4 or 5 guys in the studio at the same time. But all things considered, it really turned out spectacular. I have no complaints. I almost think that it added to the energy of the album, and it made it even more unique and special.
Well, really, I mean, I find interesting, especially, I mean, like you said, you do tend to get the vibe better even on an album that the guys are together in the same studio. You get that vibe on the album when you listen to it. And sometimes you can tell when it's emailed in or phoned in, and unfortunately where we are with the way technology is, everyone kind of leans towards the idea of I'll email it to you or I'll Skype it with you kind of situation. Why is it, do you think, that this, as opposed to what you prefer working with, having everyone together in the same studio, what do you think it was at this time that this worked for you, to have George send it to you from LA while the rest of you guys were together tracking it in the studio?
You know, I don't know. I don't know what the actual answer is to that in terms of why I think it worked out or didn't work out. All I know is it did. I mean, I was fearful. I was nervous going into it. I'm sure George was a little bit too, because it did feel kind of thrown together. You know, George sent me the ideas, and then I spent about a week arranging everything, and then we went and recorded. So it because of our busy schedules, we didn't have the time to devote to, you know, fine-tuning everything and spending months or the entire year putting the album together like a lot of albums are done. This was very rushed and put together very quickly, and you know, that usually can be an open door for disaster, doing it that way, but it wasn't for us. I think it just really made it special and unique, and was a big player in making it even cooler. It brought something to the table, you know, and it just worked. And I think a big part of that reason is we're all 4 on the same page. We're all similar in the groups we grew up with, the bands we like, the style of music we like. Dawkins and Stryper, there's a lot of similarities there. I mean, it's in the same wheelhouse, you know, so to speak. It's not like we're completely from different styles or approaches. And I think because we're in that similar, as I said, wheelhouse, and things are somewhat similar in our taste and the way we approach something, it really worked when we came together as a team.
Well, I think also what it speaks to is that you guys come from, and when I say you guys, I mean the entire band, you guys come from a time when, to make an album, a band would say, okay, we're making an album, here's where we're doing it, this is where we're staying, and from this date to this date, when we're not working on the album, we're either resting or discussing the album. Right. Yeah, you guys come from that time where it was all about focus on the album and worry about everything else once the album is done, as opposed to nowadays where there's press being done and touring being done while the album is being worked on.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I wouldn't recommend to other bands doing it this way. I mean, again, as I said earlier, I like to be in the same room with everybody. That's the way I like to do it, and write the songs in the same room together, and do it all together. Do it. At the same time. I like to be there. If I'm working with a guitar player, I like to be in the room with the guitar player. If I'm tracking a singer, I like to be there when I'm tracking a singer. There's just something that comes from that. George and I did not do it that way, but again, with that being said, the album really turned out spectacular, and I have no regrets. I wouldn't go back and change a thing. I really wouldn't.
No, not at all, and it stands out. And what I like about it too is not once did I listen to it and go, yeah, well, this sounds like it was almost accidentally a docking track, or it doesn't sound like there was something that was almost accidentally could have been a Stryper track. Other than your voice being as recognizable as it is, you listen to it and go, this is Sweet and Lynch. You don't listen to it and go, yeah, this is, Docking and Michael Sweet working together, or Michael Sweet and George working together. It has its own identity. And were you worried at any point during the writing process that maybe that would happen at some point, that you guys might start drifting towards a style that might lean towards one of the individual bands?
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen to a degree, and how can it not? I mean, George has such a definable style and instantly recognizable, and my voice is recognizable, and we both have those characteristics in our styles, I think. How are you not going to hear flavors of Stryper and flavors of Docking when George and I are involved? I mean, you're going to hear that stuff. But we definitely went out of our way to try not to write an album that sounds like Stryper or an album that sounds like Docking. We wanted to make a classic rock record, really, that was our approach, just to make songs and write songs and record songs that took you back to the 70s and the early 80s, the greatest period in rock, in my opinion. And that's what we tried to do.
And it's funny that you say that, because I've been noticing a lot of the newer upcoming bands are actually starting to go back to that sound. I'm getting more stuff coming in on a regular basis, and I'm getting attention going to bands that are doing just that. Bands like Anti-Mortem, bands like Orchid, bands like King, just to name a few, are newer, even Shaman's Harvest, are newer bands, but they have that old school sound, that 70s, 80s vibe. Do you think it's the newer generation finally sitting there and going, you know what, we grew up on this stuff, we listened to this stuff, we need to pay tribute to this stuff and like it? Or is it just finally that full circle coming back around?
I think it's maybe full circle coming back around, because you can't deny great music. It goes in and out of style in terms of genres and different types of music and bands and whatnot, but if it's good, it always comes back around. Or it always stays around. It's timeless. And I think there was some amazing music in the 80s. I think there was some incredible music in the 70s. So I think those styles are coming around again. And, George and I are trying to help the cause and help that happen even sooner.
Now, do you think that also the fact that so many of the greats of the 70s and 80s, like, you and George, I mean, the last Stryper album, No More Hell to Pay, was like an under-the-radar huge hit. I mean, it got like very minimal major radio airplay for obvious reasons that every other rock and metal album gets nowadays, which is the way radio is, not internet radio, I mean terrestrial radio. But it was a widely appreciated album by pretty much everyone in the rock and metal world. And do you think that because bands like Stryper and you guys from the 70s and 80s are still going out and banging out great new albums, is that also helping in this revolution back to the days of when rock and metal reigned in the world of radio?
I think so. I mean, Stryper's a little different story because we're a rock band that's comprised of Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with that, unfortunately, is there are limitations. People instantly judge us by the Christian tag instead of just listening to the music. And many times, and I've seen it firsthand, this isn't me crying or sounding like a baby, it's just a fact. We'll get a call from a band, a big band, our management saying, hey, we're considering Stryper, and they don't have a clue we're a Christian band, and they find out we're a Christian band, and then they say, oh, never mind. It happens on a daily basis. And so I think that's part of the reason why radio doesn't always acknowledge us or play us. We don't get some of the same opportunities that some other bands get, but at the same time, in that same breath, we get some opportunities that other bands don't get because of who we are. So, I'm certainly not crying about it or complaining about it. I'm just saying that I just wish that people would judge the music by the music. And not by if this one guy in the band believes in God or doesn't, or if this one guy is, this or that. I mean, I just listen to the song. Do you like the song or not? Do you like the message or not? Do you like the musicianship or not? Don't bring all the other stuff into it. And Stryper tries to put together great songs, and we go out of our way to produce, write, and perform really good material. It means a lot to us. We don't just throw out garbage, and just recycle stuff just to get it out there. And we work hard to make great albums.
Yeah, and you can hear it in what you guys do. I mean, I've always said, found it ironic that you guys, by you guys I mean Stryper, gets pigeonholed with the Christian rock vibe, but yet, in the mid-90s, when Marilyn Manson did Antichrist Superstar, it was all over the place and nobody batted an eye, nobody said a word. They all looked at it as art. It's always this double-edged sword, if you will, in the world of rock and metal. And look, whether I'm one of those people, I don't care what the religion is, what the background is. Good tunes are good tunes. Exactly. And that's, like you said, that's really what it needs to be about. It needs to be about the good tunes. And, it gets me to thinking, do you think maybe that's where things got mixed up in the late 90s and 2000s, when rock and metal started to turn into more about trying to sell albums as opposed to just putting out the good music to, trying to compete with pop and rap in the 90s and 2000s was a very difficult thing for the rock and metal world. Do you think maybe it got away from the idea of just saying, we're going to go in, we're going to make a good album, and it'll sell on that factor? Or was it more people were worried about what was going to sell versus what sounded good?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we're guilty of that too. What happens is you fall into the trap, especially when you're with a label. If you're on your own, it's not so much. But if you're with a label, there is a pressure that comes with that. of having to deliver, having to sell, having to promote, push and push and push and push. And that's definitely the case. And then back in the old days, it was magnified times 100. I mean, you really had to. You had that pressure of delivering the hit song, and the record sales, and the sold out tours, and there was a lot of pressure put on bands. I think that pressure still applies nowadays. I don't think it's as intense because record sales are down. I mean, nobody's selling albums. I mean, people are selling albums, but comparatively to how it was 25 years ago, it's a joke.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
I mean, if you sold a million albums 10 years ago, you're lucky to sell 100,000 albums today. I don't care who you are.
No, and it's a sad state, too, of the industry. I mean, Michael, I'm 35. I'm of the 80s childhood that grew up listening to Poison and Motley and Stryper and Dokken and all of that. I live for a physical copy of an album. When an album comes out, I'm not running to iTunes to pre-order it. Yes, I do internet radio and I need digital, but I want that physical copy because I know that that's where the work is. That's where the love went to. It went to the artwork, the liner notes, the design. And I live for that, and yet for some reason, everyone's going, well, it's not worth it anymore. But is it worth it when a computer hard drive crashes and your entire music catalog disappears?
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. And unfortunately, not many people think like you, and that's why record sales are down. I mean, most people nowadays, they just go by one song. An album comes out, they go to iTunes, they listen, they sample all the songs, and they decide just based on a 30-second sample that they don't like that song. And they buy one song. They buy the one 30-second sample that they like, or the one song that has the video out, the popular song. And what's really sad is, unfortunately, they're losing sight of the fact that the band just spent 3 or 4 months recording all 11 or 12 songs, and 3 or 4 months writing all 11 or 12 songs, and $150,000 recording it and promoting it and putting it all together, only for them to download one song.
and the kicker of it is they go out and buy a ticket. They'll spend $80 on a ticket to see the band live, and they only know the one song, and they stand there and go, well, the show sucked because they didn't play the one song I own. Well,
exactly. And the only way to really stop that, which is going to sound ludicrous, and people will read this and think I've lost my mind, but is to force people to buy the whole album. You either buy the whole album or you don't get anything.
No, you know what? I agree with you, 100%. I mean, when I was buying my albums when I was working, when I first got a job in high school and in college, I would go out, I would buy the album the day it came out, because the day an album comes out, you always get a sale price. So you can't complain, oh, it's $20 for a CD. That's a lot of money for 12 songs. Yeah, but think about what you're getting. And then when I would tell people, but if you go the day it comes out or the week it comes out, you're saving $7. Everyone looked at me and went, yeah, but I don't have time to go out and buy it. Well, you can't have it both ways.
Exactly. And it's the thing is this, the argument is always, when someone in a band, an artist or a label complains about it, they're bitching. The fans, a select handful of fans start going off on the label or the band that said it, and They're whiners, they're complainers, they're babies, they're this, they're that. But you don't understand it fully until you walk in our shoes. And if you were to spin it, this is your life. This is our life. First of all, this is what I do for a living. This is for lack of a better term, my bread and butter, as it is all other bands. And when you put blood, sweat, and tears into something, you build a house. You're a builder, and you build a house, this beautiful house, and someone comes in and says, "We just want to buy the bedroom." You're going to look at them like, "What are you, crazy?" I just built the whole house. You buy the whole house, not just the bedroom. Well, all I want is the bedroom because that's the only thing I like about the house. It's insane to me that that's where we're at in the music business. That it's about just buying one song or two songs versus the whole album. And there's got to be a way to rectify it because it's really sad. Because when a band makes an album, that's a piece of art as a whole. It's not just the corner of the piece of art. Your favorite part of the painting is the corner, so you're going to cut off the corner and buy that and take that, but you're going to leave the rest. That's just crazy to me. It makes no sense.
You're 100% right. I mean, I can't agree with you more. I mean, I say each and every week here inside the Asylum when I get new music, when I play something, a deeper cut, I remind people, go out and buy the album because that's what you want. You want the deeper cuts. Like, I love the new Sweet Lynch album, Only to Rise. And I know September is a single, but for some reason when I got the album, I went with Time Will Tell as what I wanted to play. That's the song that always hit me right out of the gate. So that was the one I went to. And it's not one that's being pushed as a single, but because I had the album, I dug into it and I found what resonated in my ears, and that's really what people need to do, and is find those songs that they connect with.
Right, exactly.
So now, I mean, Michael, you guys have been kicking butt with the album Only to Rise for some time now, and for those of you joining me late, Michael Sweet of Stryper and Sweet and Lynch now with me on the phone here inside the Asylum, and I'm looking at you guys did some tour dates with Sweet and Lynch. I know you guys probably have some more lined up. What's the plan moving forward with Sweet and Lynch, and how does it play into whatever you guys have planned, whatever you had planned, that is, with Stryper for 2015?
Well, we're planning on putting together some shows. We don't know how many or exactly when, but we're trying to put together shows and align everybody's schedules. That's really hard to do. I've been really busy with Stryper. I'm recording an album now called Fallen. It'll come out this year, probably October or November of this year. And then I'm getting ready to start on a new solo album. And that'll come out next year on Rat Pack, probably around April or May. I'm also going to be producing another album coming up this year, and I'm just really busy. I'm doing a lot of touring, solo touring and whatnot, and a few Stryper events this year, Puerto Rico, Monsters of Rock Cruise. We got the Fan Weekend in September, so there's a lot going on. But you know what? In terms of Sweet Lynch, I'm hoping we can put together some dates, and I hope that we can do another album. I think that would be something that the fans would want, and something that the band wants too. But it's just, again, it's tough when you got 4 guys and 4 individual bands who are very busy to bring them all together to make it happen. It's not easy.
You're right. I know it's funny. It's funny that you bring that up because there have been so many that have come around recently. Chicken Foot gave us 2 albums, and that seems to be the end of Chicken Foot. We had KXM, which was George Lynch again, with Doug Pinnick and Ray Luzier. And
exactly,
that was a huge album, and it seems like we get these one and done or two and done because
I know.
everyone gets into it and then something else comes up. Do you think it's maybe it's kind of hard to say. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that we're getting these one-off supergroups? Is it helping to revive things? Is it maybe waking everyone up and maybe opening up new listeners? Or do you think it's maybe diluting things a little too much?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, it's good to stay busy and keep doing stuff and be a part of a lot of different projects, but I think you can oversaturate and spread yourself out too thin, and then people lose sight of what you just did. If you're moving one project to another and putting out too much stuff. I think there's a fine line to draw, and you got to be smart in how you do it. It's good to stay busy and stay active all the time. I try to be so. I try to do things and stay busy constantly, and I'm always doing something. A lot of people think I'm doing too much, but you know what? I'm happy. If I thought I was doing too much, I'd be the first to realize it, and I'd back off. Definitely, trust me, because I've done it before. I've taken hiatus and taken breaks and taken time off, and I've done it many times. I just don't feel the need to do it right now, and I'm having fun doing all these projects and writing and doing solo albums and Stryper albums and Sweet Lynch albums, and I'm having a good time doing it. And I feel like the creative juices are flowing, and I still got a lot in me, and I figure, you know what? Strike while the iron's hot. Keep doing it.
Exactly. I was told years ago when I was going for a degree in TV production, years before I knew I would find myself doing internet radio and loving it and enjoying what I'm doing now. You gotta find what you love, and when you find that love of doing something, you have to stick with it, because that's when your true inspiration and your best work always shows through.
Exactly. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And we're not getting any younger. We're all getting older. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this for. I mean, the music business could come to a screeching halt before we know it. I mean, that would be awful, but I mean, it certainly could happen. So nothing lasts forever, and I figure while it's still going and I'm still going, why not keep doing it?
Absolutely. And I know you got a lot going on. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Being as busy as you are, I don't know how you do it, but yet you manage to do so. I gotta ask you, because you are, as I said at the beginning of this interview, one of the most recognizable voices in the world of hard rock and metal. How is it all these years later you've managed to have that same power in your voice? And I mean, to my ears, you really haven't lost a heck of a lot over the years with your voice. How is it you've managed that when so many others over the years have struggled or fallen and risen back up to their whole game?
Well, you know what? I've definitely lost some of my range. My voice has changed a little bit over the years, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because my voice was so high before. It's come down in range a little bit, and I think that's sometimes a good thing. And I'm still able to sing and still able to do what I do, and I'm very thankful for that. And I try to take care of myself, work out and eat right and stay young at heart and young in mind, and I just try to take good care of myself. I think that's the secret right there.
Absolutely. You've got to always take care of number one first, otherwise all the other pieces, well, they just fall down, and what you get left but nothing, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time out with me this week here inside the ASYLUM. Make sure you guys pick up Only to Rise, the new album from Sweet Lynch, and keep your eyes open for some new music from Stryper in the fall. The album is entitled Falling. Michael, I look forward to hearing that one. And as always, being Sweet Lynch's right now, the big talk that we've been discussing, what song from the album is maybe your favorite that you'd like me to play for the listeners?
You know what? I've got a couple favorites. I'm a big fan of Divine. I love Divine, and I love Dying Rose. I love Love Stays. So there's three right there, man. That are definitely three of my favorites off the album.
I'll tell you what, how about I do two of the three? We'll do Divine and Dying Rose back to back from Sweet Lynch. That work for you, Michael?
Perfect.
Alright, beautiful. Gang, don't go anywhere. A rare double shot of new music from Sweet Lynch. First up, Divine, followed by Dying Rose. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here inside the Asylum.